Welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. Our theme for 2025 is the future of work. Meaning is the new money. In a world shaped by rapid innovation and constant change, the pursuit of purpose and impact has never been more important. I'm Dr. John D'Antico, your host, bringing over 30 years of experience in leadership, strategic thinking, and purpose-driven innovation. Here, we tackle the pressing challenges of our time, from the rise of artificial intelligence to the growing need for meaning in the workplace. Together, we'll uncover how leaders can ethically integrate AI to enhance decision-making and keep humanity at the heart of their organizations. Remember, amidst all the technological advancements, in the end, it's always about the people. This podcast is your resource for actionable tools, thought-provoking discussions, and inspiring stories. It's time to go beyond leadership development and focus on leadership impact, creating workplaces where people thrive, innovation flourishes, and meaning truly becomes the new currency. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now, let's throttle up and dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. This is your host, Dr. John. With me today is Scott Arias. Scott Arias, PhD, is a Navy veteran, entrepreneur, and CEO of ACE Consulting, a national construction staffing and consulting firm supporting high-stakes federal projects. With more than 3 decades of experience in the construction industry, Scott's journey is taking him from serving as a Navy Seabee to earning a PhD in construction management and becoming a tenured professor at Eastern Kentucky University. Scott bootstrapped his company from a one-man operation into a multi-million-dollar business, applying the discipline, leadership, and mission-first mindset he developed in the military. Today, he blends academic insight, field-tested strategy, and entrepreneurial grit to help leaders navigate complexity with confidence. He's also the author of 2 books, a dedicated mentor, and a passionate volunteer, whether discussing leadership, recruiting top talent, or mastering federal contracting. Scott brings real-world lessons and stories that resonate with audiences across industries. I am truly pleased to have a fellow Navy veteran with me here this morning. Good morning, Scott. How are you?
John, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Glad you could be with me. I'd like to start off by asking this very simple question, and that is, can you tell me the titles of your 2 books?
The first title is Pick Up Your Mat and Walk, and it's just a story of how I lost my leg and returned to active duty, basically my life story and some of the principles I applied. The second one is The Pathways to Success, and it talks about my path through life and what I've seen some of the traits to be successful. There's a lack of understanding when you're young of what are those keys to success.
Right. I appreciate that. Let's start with my normal question for the beginning, and that is simply this. Tell me a bit about yourself. Where did you grow up, and what in your mind were some of the fundamental influences in your life?
Well, I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. John, you ever been to Albuquerque?
I have.
Don't ever go back because it's just a big desert. I live in Kentucky now where it's nice and green, but I grew up there. My father was an immigrant from Cuba. He came over during the Bay of Pigs. My mom grew up in Texas, but they eventually met in New Mexico. They brought all the Cubans in to Miami, and then they tried to disperse some other places. And my dad just happened to land in New Mexico. He was 15 when he came over. That's where I grew up. He started his own janitorial business, and it was him and his mother from the age of 5 to 18. When I joined the Navy, I pushed a lawnmower, wiped the tables, and did all those things, learning those basic work ethic principles, and more importantly, learning about how you treat people and seeing, I just happened to, one of the guys who owned the real estate companies we did a lot of work with, his name was Bill Hooton, extremely wealthy, successful man, and always treated me with a great bit of respect, and my father. They had a great relationship, and I learned a lot from that, and how do you conduct yourself with others.
It's great. Yeah, I think I have to go back to my Navy training. I went to officer candidate school. Just being in the Navy, working with people. A lot of people think because of the drama episodes you see on television, they think we run around all the time, officers or senior enlisted, barking orders at people. That's not the way it works. And the greatest lesson that I learned in the Navy, one of the greatest lessons, one of the major themes of my book, was that if you take care of people, people will take care of you. I have never been failed by that. Tell them the good news, tell them the bad news, but it's all about trust. And to me, I think that's one of the most essential things I learned in the Navy, and it still is with me today. So let me ask you this question, if I can, Scott. You've gone from Navy CB to PhD and CEO. How did your military experience shape your approach to business leadership?
When I was 18, I was a mess. Like most people at a young age, I was a mess. Uncle Sam whipped me into shape quickly. When I went to boot camp, I was enlisted. I was a builder senior chief, that I wasn't in Kansas or New Mexico anymore. I needed to grow up. It taught me those intangibles. You try to teach your children every day, like keeping your word, doing the right thing. What you said there is take care of people, let them take care of you. Those type of things, I learned those from outstanding leaders that I saw, not just good leaders, but I'd have to say I probably learned more from poor leaders, because learning the things not to do rather than the things to do. I carried that to what I do every single day. And if you ask anybody who works for my company, they'll say people first. And that's the culture that I have built.
Yeah, I agree. My first tour of duty was as an engineer. I'm not an engineering major, I was a business major. But that doesn't bother the Navy. You figure it out on an aircraft carrier. And the people who took care of me, who taught me, were the master chiefs and the warrant officers who were former enlisted. They gave me a hard time. They beat me up verbally. It accosted me every single day. But you had to learn, have a thick skin, take it, learn from it, and move on. And after 6 months, I took my engineering officer of the watch exam and passed it with an 86, I think it was, and then qualified as an engineering officer of the watch as an ensign.
Oh, wow.
And everybody just stood back and said, wait a minute, let's not prejudge this guy. He knows where the valves are to our air conditioning systems on the ship. Maybe we should be nice to this guy. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. Especially when you're on watch at Central Control and you say to the A-gang guys, hey, go take that valve out. It's earning the respect. Yeah. We have two words. One, we hear all the time, you deserve. You deserve this. You deserve that. And the word you don't hear that much anymore is earn. You got to earn it. And I think the Navy made me earn it. And that's one of the greatest gifts that was given to me. Let me ask you this. ACE Consulting works on mission-critical federal projects. What does it take to lead and deliver under that kind of pressure?
When I started the company, the interesting thing about being a founder is that you learn every piece of the business. I didn't walk into a business and already have the accounting system set up. I hadn't do that. I was $1 million business and I was operating off an Excel spreadsheet. I have sat every role, done some really well and some very poorly, but every single role I played, and that is critical, understanding your business and understanding the way to grow your business. I have something I call CEO Day. It's my successor and my successor's successor meet with me every single month for a day. We meet for 5 or 6 hours depending upon what we're doing. We talk about things like developing that thick skin, understanding, but in the same token, never do it so much where we're a Christian-based company, and I always talk about where you lose your heart. And so you still have to have that empathy, and you still got to do those things. But there's another side of it. That concept is important. And I say it's wise, learning the wisdom. And I always say wisdom is an intersection of education and experience. It's a combination of those two. And I have to say, how do we have been so successful is we understand the game, we support people, and we don't take ourselves too seriously. That goes a long way.
I agree. I think you have to learn balance. That's the word I would say. And I'm not talking about life balance, but the ability to be empathetic and at the same time know where the rules apply to how you're trying to do business and what you're bringing to the marketplace. I think you're right on the money on that. I wanted to ask you this question. I know that one of the things you deal with in staffing is retention of good people. I'm sure you must run across that
Mhm.
all the time. What would you say are the important factors that you consider and your organization considers when you're really focusing on the retention of good people in an organization?
Well, I'm a professional services business. We sell expertise, but it comes down to people. It really comes down to one word and one word only. And through professional development activities I've done in my life and being in the service, more importantly, is learning the concept of culture. There's a really big difference in every generation, especially the ones that are currently coming through. I'm a Gen Xer. I don't want to age you, but you're probably baby boomer.
Right?
But most of my staff is Gen Y and Gen Z. We think differently. I grew up in a generation of me. They grew up in a generation of we. So everything for them is about what's the tribe doing? What's the team doing? And what are you doing for the greater benefit of society, which is counter to what I kind of grew up in the culture. I have learned from them that if you can simply set a culture that's focused on the group or a larger group, you will get their buy-in. And we do this for here. There's two things that we do. I don't publicly advertise this because I believe it takes away from what we do, but we give 10% of everything we make to doing something for because a Christian organization, we want to outpour our Christian faith. So we dedicate 10% of our net profitability. We also set aside a certain amount to be good to our staff. I call it the Doing Good Fund. And this year we've done things like buying a truck, paying for somebody's air condition. And in the past years, we paid for funerals. We've paid for sending families away after a very difficult thing to somewhere. We've sent people to Disney with their family because they've gone through some difficult situations. I can go down the litany of things, and I don't even remember all the things that we've done, to be honest with you, because a lot of the things that we've done, I don't manage. I let my people make those decisions. My vision for the company is we're in the business of building the kingdom. Business because you have to have a successful business model, which we do. Building because we're in construction, and kingdom because we're a Christian-based organization. And I apply that both internally and externally. So that's why we do everything we do. Through that process of caring for people and doing things for people, you just develop this loyalty. And I use the L word because a lot of people don't like talking about the L world, but loyalty, which goes both ways, is two-way street. And you can just, and I think of one of our chief people officer. In fact, she wouldn't mind me saying this, but she came down with cancer a few years ago. She was bearing the burden of a $5,000 copayment in addition to dealing with cancer. We took that burden off her shoulders. And there's something about that. It builds a culture that you can't describe. The culture of caring and consideration. And I don't like to call it a family because you can't get rid of your brother or your mother. They are who they are. In a tribe, we call ourselves a tribe. You have to earn your spot. It's a meritocracy. On the other side, it's also a tribe, and we take care of our own. Very much into culture, things like pay time off. We don't have a policy. If you want time, you take it. I always say we have a no PTO policy, meaning that it's not that you don't get no PTO, you take it. That works in my organization. It may not work in every organization. However, we're a professional services organization. It works for us, and it has worked for us. We don't track it. We don't keep any paperwork with it. We don't reference it. It's just a standard. You need time off, you take time off. What I found, though, is that people actually look for guidance there. So I tell them, you need to take a minimum of 5 weeks. And 5 weeks sounds like a lot, but you also got to take time, like during Christmas. That's a downtime for the government. that's a great time for us to take a couple weeks and spend with our families or do whatever. So we've built a lot of our company around those things. Next week, our entire company shuts down for a week because we do family vacation week. So everybody goes and does their own family thing for a week. So there's 3 weeks right there. And then I tell everybody, I encourage you to take a minimum of 2 weeks beyond that or more if you need it. We also have a chef. Some people say it's not about the perks. And you're right, it's not about the perks. But it's nice to have food in the fridge. We looked at the cost and decided that it's cheaper to have somebody come cook full time. That helps the culture of us. We provide a cafe they can go down and hang out and have coffee and yada. It's not just about the perks, but it's encouraging people to take care of each other. I'm really hard on our senior leadership about taking care of people because that's what it's about.
Right.
You want to be successful? Be good to people. Take care of people.
I absolutely agree. I talk about this all the time. You talked about Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. And you read things nowadays, oh, we're firing those people. They don't know how to do this, and they don't know how to do that, and they don't know how to read. I was thinking about this the other day, and I said, well, they don't need to know how to read per se. ChatGPT will do that for them. Right? I mean, ChatGPT, they know how to prompt.
Mm-hmm.
They're good at prompting, and they know how to extract from the tools that are available to them. It's second nature to them. They've been walking around with iPhones since they were born,
Mm-hmm.
and they get it. So the question is, can the more senior leaders, the boomers and the millennials, understand that the real touch point for many of these, as I understand it, is, and you mentioned it, you said it in a different way, what are we doing? And the answer is they're looking for values alignment. How does my particular value system align with the value system of the organization and vice versa? And the second thing is they want to be part of the decision-making processes of the organization. This is not about quote unquote followership. This is about partnership. They want to be partners with you. And then third is they want training and learning that helps them advance their particular careers. I'd love to get your reflection on those 3 points.
Well, they want to be in the decision-making process. That's a hard thing for me because I grew up in construction, which were kind of rough around the edges anyhow. When I asked questions about things, I was told to shut up. So that's tough for me, but I have crossed that barrier and I realized they want to understand. It's about the why. It's not about the how. It's all about the why. So if you explain to them what they're doing, it helps them understand it better. And to be a good leader, getting them to understand the why is key. Some of those things I learned about dealing with how to deal with our younger generation has to really deal with some of the bad experiences I had. You hit the nail on the head there. I mean, that's what they care about. They care about creating value beyond themselves. I had to admire them in that way. My generation, it was all about getting a BMW. But their generation is really about the greater good. I've learned a lot from them relative to that. If you don't have a vision, mission, and core values, we have 3 core values in our company. It's called RUG. Do the right thing, have extreme urgency, and be the gold standard. I didn't sit back and create those. I just did them, and they were successful. I took what I did that was successful and applied it to something that we do every single day. Every meeting, we start off with that. They give an example of how they were the gold standard of doing the right thing or being urgent. We hire, fire, promote based on those core values. Not something I came up with. Something somebody else came up with is a lot smarter than me.
I've always said, I've written for over 25 years that we are a why-driven species. We like to know why. Mm-hmm. It's important to us to know why. It satisfies, I'm not just here doing stuff. I'm doing it because there's a purpose. I don't care what generation you're from, boomers to now all the way to Gen A, beyond Gen Z, what they call the Gen A. We're all interested in why are we doing something? What meaning does it have? One of my themes this year is meaning is the new money. Okay? Meaning is the new money. Everybody is searching for meaning. As a boomer, I can tell you, being in the Navy gave me a great sense of meaning in my life. And I think that pervades all the way through every generation, the multi-generational workforce. People want to have a sense of purpose. They want to make an impact. They want to be listened to. They want to know that they matter. People want to know they matter, and they want their work to matter. We're honing in on what it takes to keep not only the younger generations, but all generations interested in their work, to stay with you. Recognizing, of course, I'm sure it is, that maybe the best you'll get out of a Gen Zer, for example, is 5 years. And that's not because they don't like you or they dislike the company. It's time to move on and try something different. I want to learn something more. I read something the other day that was so interesting to me. In my generation, in the boomers, I know people. I have a fraternity brother who recently passed away. Great guy. He spent 42 years in the same company.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see that much anymore,
No.
if at all. But that's the way he was. And they loved him. And he loved the job, and it was great. But today, if you don't have 4 or 5 or 6 jobs that show you're capable or competent in these different areas, in these different organizations, now the recruiters look at you and go, well, why haven't you moved? Why haven't you taken on a new challenge? So it's completely turned about right now. But that's the world we live in. But here's the good news. When you develop and create good people, they may leave your company and go to another company and do well there because of the principles you taught them. You're feeding the ecosystem that you live in. I'd love to get your reflection on that.
Well, the whole thing about multiple jobs is when I was a professor, I still teach, I still adjunct, but I was full-time professor for a decade. And I can tell you that it changed. It went from 1 to 2 jobs to now 6 different career moves. That's something I struggle with, not just personally, but as a company, because retaining, I have a young gentleman who's outstanding. He gave up law school to come and work with us. And I convinced him that being a lawyer is a path to destruction. No, I'm just joking. He came to us, and after a few years, I had the feeling he was ready to move on. I wanted to retain him. Sometimes you have to do things like create some space. It's much cheaper to retain somebody than to find somebody new. I heard 1.5 times their salary is what it cost you, your annual salary. So that's significant. But I've had a real hard time personally because I'm really big about investing in people. When I first started out, when I invested in people, I had an expectation that would be reciprocated through some type of loyalty or respect. And then I realized through time that sometimes the best thing you can do for somebody is let them go to something different, or let them choose to ask them to find something different. It may sound harsh. You say, well, you're a Christian organization. Why are you going to ask somebody? Well, the fact is that sometimes it doesn't work. I don't want you to do something your entire life you're not happy with. I was in the Navy. I love the Navy. Absolutely love the Navy. And not every day was great. But if I didn't have that experience, I just think to myself, where would I be today? So I think about the same thing with people. Sometimes it's best, and you develop a friend, you develop somebody, a salesperson, but you develop a lot of different things because they're not going to forget how you treated them when they were here.
I mean, you're singing my song here, man. You're singing my song. I tell people many times that I've faced very difficult, heart-wrenching times in the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've called on my Navy experience to get me through. I'm going to forge on because you have to have a belief things are going to get better.
Absolutely.
They're just going to get better. And it saved me. It has saved my life. So I absolutely, incredibly agree with you on that. I want to go down this road for a bit because this is one of my new hot buttons.
Mm-hmm.
And that is mission statement. The importance of a succinct mission statement. I absolutely believe it's primary to have a succinct, targeted mission statement. And I'd love to get your reflection on that.
Well, I'm going to throw on my mission statement. So that my mission statement is using our Christian values, we make our clients' needs easy. We do a diversity of things: security, staffing, administration, scheduling, and training. Basically followed my career. It's difficult to have that guiding principle. I always say the mission, and I'd like to have your take on this, John. I always try to explain to my people is the vision is why we do stuff, and the mission is what we do, and it helps people have a little more clarity on why that's important. I get a lot of flack for my vision statement, not because it's Christian business statement, but because they say, well, what does that have to do with construction administration? And I'm like, absolutely nothing. But it does have to do with my beliefs and the message I'm trying to carry. We don't have everybody in our organization as a Christian person. First off, I was a sailor and a construction worker, so I have been known to say certain words multiple different times. Still working through that in my life. Having that concise mission statement where you're saying, hey, this is what the expectations are. We have 223 people. Stretch across the United States and overseas. We've had people in Germany. We've had people in Greenland for years at a time. And it's difficult when you have somebody in Greenland to say, this is how I want you to act. But you just give them guidance. I always tell my staff, just do the right thing. If you think it's the right thing to do the right thing. It's really that simple. I'm not going to get mad for you do the right thing. Do it with extreme urgency. We know what extreme urgency is. That may be an hour, that may be a day, and it may be a week, depending on the task. Urgency is key. And then the whole thing about being a gold standard, do things with your full ability. Fully invest yourself in what you do. And those permeate to the people all across my organization. And it's fun. What's funny is when I hear it said now, it seems so weird to me because it was something that I created and it's so ingrained in the culture. It's actually it's kind of like when you hear your kids say something that you taught them. Yeah. That sense of overwhelming pride and admiration for what you've been granted in life.
I will tell you that I've mentioned this on several podcasts that I abandoned talking about mission statements. I walked away from it for a good long while because I got tired of it. Mm-hmm. The 7-paragraph mission statement. So wait a minute. Is this something you live by every day? Is this something you do every day? Is this your mantra? How could 7 paragraphs be your mantra? I said, no, it's one sentence. That's what you get. You get one sentence, clean, specific. Mm-hmm. I talked lately about the movie 300 with Gerard Butler. In that scene when he says, this is Sparta. Now, this is Sparta is not a mission statement. It's a slogan. Everybody knew who Sparta was. This is Sparta. Anybody not know who we are? No, everybody knows who we are. We're the guys you don't want to mess with. It's as simple as that. I think I'm absolutely on board with you. You have to have something that is the galvanizing spirit of what the organization stands for. Too often, mission statements are written for the people outside the organization. This is who we are. This is what we do. Love us. Part of branding, but it's really written for the people inside the organization. That's where it counts. People want to know, especially Gen Zers, Gen Xers, what is your value system? How do I connect as a person to your value system? In this tribe, how do I connect to you? And how do you connect to me? It's a two-way street. You just can't be a company that says this is what we want and not express what your value system is to them so they know what it is. I did a presentation not too long ago for the National Convention of Workforce Development Professionals. And I said to the audience, if you run into a mission statement, and I was saying to the young folks if you're a job seeker and you run into an organization that has a 7-paragraph or 8-paragraph mission statement, move on. Mm-hmm. They don't know who they are, or they're trying to make so many people happy that they become nothing in the end. Move on, find something. That's how you find value. That's how you find meaning. I'd love to get your reflection on those ideas.
Yeah, we're on the same page. It's almost like we were both in the Navy. There's great commonalities there. When I started looking at mission and vision, somebody brought it to me. It was during a Vistage seminar that I had, and they talked about what Disney's was. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with what Disney's vision statement, but it is, we make people, I think it says, we make people happy. And it's really that simple. You think about all the things Disney does. I mean, they make movies, they amusement parks, they have so much stuff that they do, but at the core, it's really about making people happy. That is what I kind of use as guidance, really, is about being simple like that. And you're right. I always say, if you have a 7-paragraph mission statement, you need to move on, because they won't survive when tough times come. When COVID came, you need that. You need that clarity. And when tough times, and you talk about perseverance earlier, that's what you have to do. And not every day, not every month, and not every year was the greatest for my company. But you got to persevere through it. That perseverance, once again, is through a conditioning process where you have had difficulties, maybe very, very difficulties, the very, very difficult things, personal, like the loss of my leg, my wife coming down with cancer, or me dealing with prescription drug addiction from the loss of my leg. I always tell people I'm a very broken person. But that's okay, because I'll be vulnerable with you and say, I'm broken. I was a high school dropout. I was a drug addict. I lost my leg. I mean, I can go through a litany of different things. I've had difficulties dealing with conflict in my life. But all those things do nothing more than make your skin tougher to tackle a bigger situation down the road. I always tell people today, if I had to deal with a $350,000 weekly payout of salaries 10 years ago, I would have had a heart attack. But it's been through a conditioning process. You have to condition yourself every step of the way and know how to deal with it, or deal with difficult, and have a reference point in the past. That's a hard thing to do with Gen Y and Gen Z for me, getting them to understand that experience is an important thing. So you have to figure out, how do you get that? And I have been known for grabbing people who have very high potential and thrusting them in difficult situations. And the reason is I know that it's just going to make them better, and ultimately they maybe will retained in our company. So
Great. I absolutely agree. 1,000%. I've had the honor, I've been blessed with my podcast guests like yourself and other people that have been on here. I just released a podcast episode yesterday, right?
wow.
And I will tell you, I've had 3 people on my podcast. I talk about them all the time. 3 gentlemen who did prison time. 2 of them did 2 years and told me that prison saved their lives. I had one was went to prison 3 times. Told me, Ken Miller, who told me that it took the first 2 times didn't stick. And now all 3 of them are CEOs of multimillion-dollar companies. Being with them, plus some other women, incredible women, a breast cancer survivor, Bana, a woman who is now the #1 designer of healthcare spaces in New York City. She was 27 years old, 4 children, no money. 20 years later, she started this business with pure grit. The more they told her she would not succeed, the harder she went at it. Incredible. And they taught me a lot, an incredible amount. They reminded me of my own struggles. And my theme this year, one of the themes this year, is hire for values, hire for heart.
Mm-hmm.
Heart, perseverance. We know what that looks like, right? Your favorite football team is playing a game. They're down by 3 touchdowns. There's 5 minutes to go, and they come back and win the game. And you say, that team has heart. They never gave up. They persevered. They just kept coming, and they won the game. How did they do that? Mm-hmm. How did that happen? The 1980 U.S. hockey team.
Absolutely.
You'll never win.
Yes.
You have no chance of winning. You're done. They win. Team, a great example of heart. So today, one of my messages is hire for values, hire for heart. So I'm absolutely on board with you. We're getting close to the end here, and I'd like to ask you my last question for today, and that is simply this. Where do you see your company going in the next 3 to 5 years? Where do you want to take it in the next 3 to 5 years? Grow more, do more? What is it that you sit back and think about in terms of the future?
Well, I have been very forward looking relative to the future. Number one, my age. I don't look old, but I am old. I'm 50 years old. My dad died at 54, and I decided that I want to have a chance to live life a little bit. I love my job. I love my work. I love my company. I love what we do. But I'd also like to get up every day and make a decision that, hey, I don't want to do that. To me, retirement's about being able to have that flexibility and have no strings attached. My 5-year plan actually is I'm exiting the company and we're flipping the company to an ESOP, an employee stock ownership program. So there'll be 100% employee owned company. I'll serve on the board for additional 5 years until either my CEO retires or we have another event that occurs. We have very specific gross profitability goals and expectations, but we also have our overhead expectations. Those are the technical aspects. But we just set our time for our next 10-year plan. Back in 2020, I laid out this 10-year plan, and now we're ready to do the next one from 2030 to 2040. When we were going through the plan and I was putting together the agenda and looking at items, one of the things I read was reevaluate your mission, vision, and your core values. And at the time, I'm thinking, well, that's not a problem. You need to be forward-looking. And it's not about what service necessary you provide, or those will come out of the business, but they're greater than that. Those intangibles, just like we look for in people. We don't have a lot of technical skills we expect people to come in the door with. They generally do, but we hire on those core values, on the soft skills, as people like to call it. I don't call them soft skills. I call them people skills. And that's what I want to hire a good young man or woman. I don't want to hire somebody who's just technically savvy and a brilliant individual, but doesn't know how to work with people and communicate with people. I don't have room for that. But I'd love to bring somebody in and teach them the technical side of it rather than trying to teach them the soft skills, because it's very difficult to unteach some of those things.
I agree. So listen, Scott, this has been a wonderful opportunity to connect with you. And I can't thank you enough for being on the Throttle Up Leadership podcast. It's been wonderful. It's great to connect with a Navy veteran. It's great to talk about the things that we learned: trust, honesty, integrity, be mission focused, stay on mission. If you don't accomplish your mission, you fail. So it's very important. I want to wish you a good, long life ahead, the best of the best, and good health. Thank you again for being here on the podcast. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for your service, John.
Take care.
Take care.